Hello guys, today I'm going to cover Nest Wi-Fi router and 2 points setup, and this is going to be a lengthy video because I'm going to cover a lot of things in this video. Uh, so what we are going to cover in this video? We are going to cover what is a mesh Wi-Fi, Google Mesh Wi-Fi. What is the difference between the traditional and single router? Difference between the Nest Wi-Fi and Google Wi-Fi? What is the difference between the modem and router? Current and new setup when you are connecting it to the your existing setup, and what current and new setup I have at my home, and then unboxing of the Nest Wi-Fi box, and lastly setting up the new Nest Wi-Fi mesh. I know that this is going to be a lengthy video, so feel free to forward to a point where which one you are interested in. Okay, let's begin. So first we are going to cover what is Wi-Fi mesh and what is the difference between the traditional and single router. So first, what is Wi-Fi mesh? Mesh Wi-Fi, it is also called as the whole home Wi-Fi system, consists of a main router that connects directly to your modem and a series of satellite modules or nodes. Google Wi-Fi calls it as points placed around your house for full Wi-Fi coverage. They are all part of a single wireless network and shares the same SSID and password. A traditional or single router has relatively limited coverage and it becomes spotty the farther away you go, and extenders can add a bit more range to this entire setup, but they degrade the performance. It's a video which shows one single router placed at one place, and it is giving the signals to the different devices all across the home. Whereas in mesh Wi-Fi network, the signal is passed from one router to the point, and then from the point it goes to the person or the device which has been used. So basically it's not spotty. This is another good diagram where it is showing the traditional router, single router setup, which is supplying the signals to all the devices, and the further you goes the signals become spotty. And the same setup, same house setup with the Nest Wi-Fi. Now as you see, the setup is because of the points, the signals are reaching everywhere, which is a kind of a good setup. So with this, let's move on to the next step. Now let's understand the difference between the Nest Wi-Fi versus the Google Wi-Fi. As I mentioned earlier, Nest Wi-Fi is built on mesh Wi-Fi technology. The router and point work together to make sure your devices stay on the clearest channel with the most bandwidth. And the result is a strong Wi-Fi signal throughout your house and not just to your router. This makes it possible to move from room to room without any interruptions in the video call or streaming of 4K devices, 4K videos. Second thing is one Nest Wi-Fi router with one Wi-Fi point is strong enough to handle up to 200 connected devices. I said one point for 200 connected devices. So imagine that if you have multiple points and you have multiple devices, they are going to work seamlessly without any problem. Third thing is it's very easy to install this setup, and we are going to cover that in details during our next step of installation. And the next one is the next features are like you can create a guest network and share your password in just few tabs. You can decide which device to prioritize for faster speed and run speed tests to make sure your network is optimized. By default, Google uses Nest Wi-Fi, or by default, Google Nest Wi-Fi uses the WPA2 protocol to maximize compatibility with legacy systems. But you can always turn on or you can enable WPA3 technology or WPA3 transition mode in the Google Home app, which is the one of the best protocol for the maximized security. So the question is that which one we should go for. Nest Wi-Fi or Google Wi-Fi. The Nest Wi-Fi is a natural progression for the Google Wi-Fi line of home mesh networking equipment, and with faster supported Wi-Fi connectivity and the faster CPU, the Nest Wi-Fi should be capable of delivering great speed with a solid connection between the mesh points. So we should go for the uh, ca- Nest Wi-Fi, Google Nest Wi-Fi, and not the Google Wi-Fi. As you see here, even the PC Magazine has recommended for the home network Nest Wi-Fi as the one of the best mesh networking equipment. They have their own ups and downs, but basically mesh Wi-Fi is good one. So it comes with three packages. One is with one router, one router and uh, 2 points, and just the router. That is so. The one which we are going to review is one router with 2 point, which is recommended for up to 5,400 square foot of area. And now coming back to the what is the router and the point. The router plugs into your modem and creates a network with strong reliable signal, and whereas the point is basically each point work with the router to expand coverage and keeps Wi-Fi fast in every room. Plus it's a smart speaker, which is the additional thing which we are going to cover, that you can play music on the point but not on the router. Now let's understand the difference between the modem and the router. So what is modem? A modem is a device that connects your home usually through a coaxial cable connection to your ISP, and then that converts takes a signal from your ISP and translate them into the signals your local devices can use, and vice versa. The connection between your house and the internet is known as a WAN, and each modem has an assigned public IP address that identifies it's on the internet. Now, what is router? Router brings the internet to your devices. A router connects your devices to each other and in hardwired setup to the modem. So basically, the coaxial cable comes from the internet provider, goes to the modem, and from modem it goes to the router, and from router to the physical devices. Now, unfortunately, in the router which is provided by the for the Nest Wi-Fi has only two Ethernet ports, and that's the reason why we are going to use um, uh, the 5 port gigabyte unmatched switch Netgear switch, and that is going to replace the router. So what we are going so what we are going to use is we are going to use the router of Nest Wi-Fi and the Netgear Ethernet port. So we in the next slide where I'm going to show you how exactly the current setup looks, you will get an understanding that how the modem and the router works. So but in reality, the sequence in which the devices are connected is connection coming from the internet provider goes to the modem, modem to router, router to devices. Now in the new setup it is going to be internet service provider to modem. Modem is not going to get replaced. Modem to the router, that is the new router, and from new router to the Ethernet switch, and from Ethernet switch to the devices. So let's move on to the next step where I am going to show you how exactly the connection setup looks with all these components. With this list, spend some time understanding the new and the current setup. So in the current setup, as you see, the internet coaxial cable is coming and it is going to the Aries router. And I'm saying Aries router because I have that one. And one of the Ethernet cable is going to the router. And from router, there are multiple Ethernet cables are going out to the different devices. So like device 1, 2, and 3. Now with this is the current setup. Now let's see that how this current setup is going to change when we are going to install the Nest Wi-Fi. So you have the internet connection coming to the router. So router is going to remain same, no issues with that one. Now the Ethernet connection coming out from the router, it will go to the Ethernet port of the router of the Nest Wi-Fi. Now from Nest Wi-Fi router, since only two ports are there, earlier it was very easy to connect the multiple devices physically from the Segamore router in the current setup, right? But with the new setup, since number of ports or number of ports on the router are only two, one is already occupied by the incoming from the Aries router, but the outgoing is only one. So only one physical device can be attached to the Nest Wi-Fi router, and we don't want that one because in most of the setup, many physical devices are attached to the router. So what we are going to add is we are going to add one uh, Netgear 300 switch series GS305 switch, and that acts as a port. So all the physical devices now will get connected through that GS305 switch. So this is how the setup is, and as you see there are blue lines over there. So it is a one is basically the router, the first one, and then there is a Nest Wi-Fi point 1 and Nest Wi-Fi point 2. So you have the overall coverage everywhere. Now let's spend some time on the current and new setup which is going to have at my place. So here is the current setup, and this is actually the pictorial view of our all rooms. So basically you see that the router is placed in the office room, and I've added two extenders, extender 1 and extender 2. Extender 2 is in the basement, and many times when we watch now movies in the basement on the home theater or watch in the family room, the reception is not good, the signals are not good, and this is what the problem is. And I am hoping that this new setup is going to reduce means replace that problem, and I'm going to have full capacity of the Wi-Fi signals all over the entire house. So what is going to happen that this router is going to get replaced with the Nest Wi-Fi router, and then extenders, the place where extenders are located, I'm going to place the Wi-Fi point, two Wi-Fi points, and I'm going to optimize them by moving here and there to see that how it looks. So let's see now the setup with the new Wi-Fi Google Mesh Wi-Fi setup. So as I mentioned earlier, Nest Wi-Fi will be set up over there in the office room, and then that router will talk to Nest Wi-Fi point 1 and Nest Wi-Fi point 2. So I'm hoping to have the coverage all over the entire house without any issues, and definitely it is going to have much expanded coverage, even though the coverage area is 5500, but I need not more than 4400 square feet of area. So now with this informations and details, we are going to move to the next step, and that next step is going to be basically actually unboxing the Nest Wi-Fi system and setting up the system using the Google app. And finally, time of unboxing this entire Nest box. Uh, as you see in the box, there are 2 points. These are 2 points, and this one is the router. The easiest way of identifying, all three of them look similar. The difference between the router and the point is that point has this dots here to and basically these are for the speaker, whereas there is no speaker on the router itself. Very nicely packed 2 points and one router set in this box. It has specifications on this side which which says that
what type of router this one is. This has security, this has encryption, web3 encryption, and basically all the specification, what type of ether connectivity you can get it using this router, and what type of dual band it is used, and all those kind of things. In addition to this, as I mentioned earlier, there is a limitation on this particular router. There are only two Ethernet ports. So since I'm going to connect this router to many devices physically, like the printer, computer, then another printer, and some other device, I'm going to use this Netgear 300 switch series, which has a 5 ports. So basically this will act as a this will replace the existing router, which has more ports in it. So one of the Ethernet port will have connection coming from the modem, and the other one I will be using it for the switch. So let's first open this box, and then now we'll see that what is there inside this box. So let's open this box. Plastic is very well packed, this box. Wow. And this is the router, very nicely made and not much heavy. And then these are the 2 points. There is no Ethernet ports on the point, just the power, and then there is a switch to disable the audio on this routers. So this is to disable, whereas this is enable. You can always enable the Google Assistance using this one. Then this is a router which has 2 Ethernet ports. One is over here and one is over here. So the internet wire which is going to come from the modem will go over here, and this Ethernet wire from this port will go to the Ethernet gigabyte switch. This one is for the power cord. So very nicely, and Google wants them not to hide underneath the table. Google wants this to be kept on their shelf or on the desk, so that it is visible. So it is not like Google wants to give you the experience of not hiding all these things, but keeping it on the table as a showpiece kind of thing. Now inside this there is a let's get started manual, which is, I'm pretty much sure it is going to be a standard manual. Let's see what exactly it is. It has the instructions that how you have to connect, what's included, and all those kind of things. Then this is just the piece of cardboard, and very well this is the power adapter for each point and the router. So 3 power adapters, and underneath here I see something. I'm pretty much sure that this must be the Ethernet cable. Yep. So one Ethernet cable for this one. And what else is there? Very nicely packed things. There is one more boxes here. I'm not sure whether it is just the empty box. Yes, nothing is there. So that's it. Nothing much inside the box other than whatever you have seen. So it's pretty straightforward. We are going to connect this, and then we are going to set up using the Home Nest app. Now before we start the setting up this one, let's open this 300 switch series gigabyte port. much in this one also, the power adapter and the very sleek say 5 port gigabyte port. So over here G305 and different switches, so you have to connect this to connect all the devices physically to the system. uh, that's it. So let me remove my existing router and replace this router with the new one. And I'm sure that you have to start with the router first and then with the point. But first thing is you have to download the app, Google Home app on your phone, and you have to use the Gmail user ID or some user ID or some email ID to configure to get the Google experience. So in our case, we have created one Google family address for our stuff, and we are going to use that for experiencing this one. So I will show you how to set up this router and points. So I connected the router to the modem using the supplied Ethernet switch. The left hand Ethernet wire is going to the modem, and the right hand Ethernet cable is going to the Ethernet switch, from where I'm going to connect all the devices physically. The center one is the power cord, we're supplying the power to the router. And just want to add one thing over here, that keeping this on the table, it looks pretty neat on the table, and not much footprint of this entire router on the table, and it looks nice on the table. So let me switch on the power and see that what happens to the router. So this is going to be the first step, and then after that we have to set up this on the Google Home app. So I've switched on the power, and let's see what it shows. I'm expecting some kind of noise. Okay, so over here the light pops up. So here the light is blinking, and looks like I have to now go to the app to set up this entire router for the this router as well as the 2 points on the Google Home app. So now let's open the Google Home app and see and add this device to the Google Home app.
Once the Google app is installed on your machine, sorry, on the phone, basically you have to sign in using your existing email and password of Google, or you could create one. So here I'm using my newly created email ID for this mesh setup, and I'm going to log in using the login to the Google Home app. Once this is done, app will ask you to create a home, and you could create any home. For example, mesh home, or nest home, or something like that, or your family name followed by home, or anything. But first thing is you have to create a home. So in this step, basically, we are creating a new home for setting up this router and 2 points. Here you have the option to select existing home also if you are adding a new device, but in this case it is a totally new home which we are creating. So here I'm just creating the new home name, and as I mentioned, it is up to you what home name you want it. So over here we have created the we have decided the home, and under this home we have to create later on the Nest Wi-Fi. So here it is asking for the home address. So home address is required for the Google Assistance, more or less. Not much is required. Home address is helpful when you ask the point that what is the temperature in your area. So that kind of thing. So now here the app is looking for a device which we have already connected earlier, and and the app found the device. So you have to just select the device whichever is found. You could match the name of the device which is found over here and at the back of the at the bottom of the router also, and you will see that both of them are same. So now it's asking for the camera permissions to scan the QR code. So over here there is a QR code underneath the router. It's pretty straightforward step. So here I'm scanning the QR code and it has been accepted, and it says that now for this particular home we have to set up the Wi-Fi network. A Wi-Fi network name has not been given, so it is now currently it is connecting to the Wi-Fi, and this is the first step in the setup of this entire router. So it has now been connected, and now it is asking you create a Wi-Fi name. So it's up to you what Wi-Fi name you want to set up. Again, it is family name followed by a mesh or something, whatever you are looking for. So now here turn on the Wi-Fi router and point usage statistics. So this will help Google to figure it out if anything is crashed. So here I accepted not to go for it right now, but you can always turn on that one at later time. Here turn on Nest Wi-Fi cloud services. This will help you to store the data uh, related to your router or your mesh network, and is asking now where the router has been placed. As I mentioned earlier, I am placing this router in the office, so I've selected office, and it is now looking for the device again in that area, and it takes couple of minutes to connect this associate this particular device with the Wi-Fi network what we have created. So the first step is creating the home, then creating the Wi-Fi network, then associating the router to this Wi-Fi network, and once that is done, then the next step is going to be adding the points to this router. Google made it very simple. It's literally plug and play. There are lot of other options are there. Their app is really good. I like the app really very much, and I'm going to create a new video on the app itself. So as you see over here, the router is now trying to connecting to the Wi-Fi network, and as I mentioned, this is the only point which takes a little bit of time, but otherwise rest of the process is pretty straightforward. And over here already the router the app identified that this particular set has 2 points in the router. So router has been set up. Now is asking that place your next Wi-Fi point. So there are two Wi-Fi points, so I'm going to place one of the Wi-Fi point in the living room. So I'm going to go to living room and place the Wi-Fi point. Remember that after connecting the power to the Wi-Fi point, it takes approximately 45 seconds to show up this particular point on the app. So hang tight over there, because I hooked up the power cable to the power cable of the point, and I was not able to see, and I was wondering what is happening. But later on I figured it out that it takes like almost approximately 45 to 1 minute to get this router on the appear on the app. So now here it's looking for the devices which I've just plugged in, not the device. Now what we are doing is basically the point, and it now says that Google Nest Point D56 found, and it is trying to associate this one with the email ID what we have created. So now first router and first point is creating preparing a mesh. So this is a mesh creation step where automatically the app is creating, and as soon as the mesh has been created you will hear a sound from the point. It's kind of a smooth music, and as soon as you hear that one you have to just say that yes, I hear the sound. And now here asking for the second point, sorry, where the point has been placed. So now it is connecting that point. It's connected. For the second point, the steps are pretty much simple, repetitive steps. So here, once the setup has been done, it is asking for whether you want to set up the Google Assistants, and then your voice recognitions, voice will be added to the mm, point. Now, in this case, I have opted not to do at this point of time, but I've decided to go for the take your assistant to recognize your voice. And I will show you this the same steps while setting up the second point also. But these are pretty self-explanatory. So as soon as you say I agree, Google app will show few of the phrases which you have to repeat, and then the voice match assistance will be set up. So like for example here, for the first phrase appeared is Google, okay Google, play my workout playlist. And I was like in the dual mindset whether I should do this or not to do this, but it's up to you. So the voice recognition is done, second voice is done, and here you have the choice that what type of voice you want to hear from the Google point. Now another option is that you can associate your link your Google points to your existing music accounts, so that you could play the music on the Google points. I'm not doing that one, and you have free 90 days trial for Cirrus music system. So I'm just keeping all these steps, but if you have the account, you can associate or link the accounts to your point. So now we are done with almost done with the Wi-Fi point, and I'm going to go for the next Wi-Fi point. You can fast forward this little bit. Again the same, did you hear the sound, then help improve Google Wi-Fi product. I said no. Then go for where is this device is placed. So I'm saying basement because this is the second device, and then it is connecting to the Wi-Fi. And then again that particular point will now get added to the mesh network, and that's where the entire mesh system will be set up. That is 2 point and one router. So this is again the repetition of the step where things are getting finalized for this entire setup. And earlier when I showed you the first setup point, I mentioned that the phrases you have to say yourself and repeat those phrases so that Google point recognizes. So over here I am showing you that as you say those phrases, it automatically that process completes. And there are actually four phrases comes in and then those four, once those four phrases are done, then the Google assistance is available for that particular voice. Very nicely done, very nice product. And here the setting up of voice match is done, and now both the points are both the points have been set up, and the router has been set up. And now it's asking that in case if you want to set up another device or another point to this existing package, but I don't want. So here it's testing the mesh connection. So this is basically the final step in the mesh, and it will show actually all these 2 points and the router, they will talk to each other and create a mesh and show the status where the entire mesh network is in good health, or the points have to be moved from one place to another place. And as you see, basement Wi-Fi, it is in great connection. Living Wi-Fi, it is in great connection. And as I mentioned earlier, the email ID which you have associated with this mesh network, you will get the notifications or any kind of details to this one. Any particular, if you add the notifications that a new device has been added, you will get the notification, and those kind of things you can set up in this particular step. And now this is the final restarting of the mesh network is happening. So both the points restarts and the router also restarts in this particular phase of the setup step. And even though it's saying that it takes about 3 minutes remaining, what I found is that usually it finishes pretty quickly. You can ignore this screen, this just popped up. And you could forward the video a little bit, if you want to, over this at this point. And this is just the final stage. Again, it shows that about 1 minute remaining, but in fact it is not. And Nest Wi-Fi is set up to date, and it shows that two Nest points, living room and basement, and then the office is the router at the top. And it shows the status for each of these points, that how the status is. You could click on the Wi-Fi point, and then it will show all the devices which are connected. So that particular video, I'm going to create another video just to get familiar with the Google app. But pretty nice app. Not much is involved, but you have to get familiarize yourself to set up this one, and I'm going to cover all those things in that particular video, each and every option which you can do it or set up using the Google Mesh app. So if you see here, when I clicked on that mesh point, it shows that what is the MB download and upload speed, and what is the health status. And now I'm testing the mesh connection again, which has been done earlier while during the setup, but you can always do it at any point of time, and accordingly you could move your mesh points if the connection is not good for those mesh points. But in my case, where the place where I place them, exactly those are very nicely placed locations. So the mesh points were showing that they are in great condition. So here it shows the download speed, upload speed, and you could individually check the point status also, that how it is performing. And then here I'm showing, just by clicking you can do that testing. And at the top you will see some Wi-Fi connection. There you could just check all the devices which have been connected to the your network. I'm going to show cover this in the next video, but now it shows that internet, it is good, Wi-Fi point good, devices connected good, and it also shows the guest Wi-Fi also, which for which no device has been set up. And thanks for watching this video.